name is Emily Riggle, and the topic I'm discussing today is drug addiction. So, a lot of people hear the term addict, and their mind automatically wants to go to that person is a junkie. And that's not always the way it begins. When I was 17, I'd smoked weed for the first time. Not a big deal. Well, I guess back then it would have been a big deal, but wasn't really. I'd smoked it once and that was it. Graduated from high school, hanging out with friends, started drinking, smoking weed here and there. Everything was good, got my first job, and never thought much into it. I mean, I'd heard the term addiction and people being drug addicts and different things like that, and I never put a lot of thought into it. I'm a teenager, drinking, smoking weed, these are normal things. And then, when I was about 22, I had met a guy, and he was a recovering addict, and he had been a heroin addict, and we hung out for a while, and he kept asking me to try heroin, and I kept saying, no, I'm never going to be that person, I'm never going to stick a needle in my vein, I'm never going to do those things. And, I mean, I had snorted pain pills a couple of times, and it just wasn't a thing for me. And then, as the time progressed and us hanging out, he kind of knew how I felt about him and knew, like, at that time I felt like I was in love with him. So he used that against me. And it was my 23rd birthday. He talked me into walking into Walmart and buying a bag of needles from the pharmacy. And of course I was a nurse's aide at the time, so I had scrubs on, so nothing looked out of place at all. And got home that night, and that was the first time that I had seen tar heroin. And he was the first person to ever shoot me up. And I always heard that you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. There's no in between. That is the absolute truth if there ever was any. I let him do that to me, and I was in love. There was no love that could overtake the love that I had felt at that moment in my life. And that day is the beginning of a very long, rough road. It went from on the weekends to every day, a couple times a day, and then it was all day. And some things happened in my life, and I ended up having to leave town for a while, and I got clean. I was able to walk away that time, and it was just so easy. You know, I'm never going to do that again. It's never going to be my life again. I don't see why people want this to be their life on a daily basis. Well, then I had my daughter when I was 28, and I had to have a C-section, and they put me on Percocet. And then I was on them Percocet for a while, and then about 4 months after she was born, I ended up having appendicitis. After that, I went back to the doctor after about 8 months of being on the Percocet, and the doctor said, no more, you're done, we're cutting you off. Well, that wasn't going to happen, because I already knew what being dope sick was after being on heroin for the first time, but I'd never really experienced it that bad, so I didn't think too much into it. I just knew I was going to feel like crap for a couple days. Well, that was way worse than feeling like crap. I wanted to die. Coming off them Percocet was so hard. And I had never heard about Suboxone, and of course it was embarrassing, so I wasn't going to go and ask for help, because to me I didn't have a problem, so there wasn't a reason to ask for help. So I was actually living in Marietta, and I had come back to Zanesville and hung out with a girlfriend of mine, and she was like, well, I can't find any pills, but I can get heroin. And I was like, alright, that's cool, like, I'll just snort it, maybe I'll feel better, whatever. Well, that day started a whole nother journey that lasted about 5 years. I got pregnant for my son, and I was addicted to heroin when I got pregnant for him. So I found a doctor in Lancaster that worked with pregnant women and did the Subutex program. And so I got clean, and I stayed clean for 1.5 years after I had my son. And by this time I didn't have my daughter. She was living in Marietta with her dad, because when he found out what was going on and the heroin, I just let it take over. So he was done with me, and I couldn't even take care of myself at that time. I knew that I couldn't take care of myself, so I wasn't going to be able to take care of her. Then I get pregnant for my son, go to this doctor, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do, and I had been in trouble and didn't take care of the situation, and my son was born addicted to the Subutex. So he had spent some time up in Wexner Center up in Columbus. We spent his first Christmas, because he was born December 4th, and he didn't come back to Zanesville until January 8th, and I got him home, I think, January 14th. And on January 17th, I was actually driving from my sister's in Adamsville to go pick up my boyfriend at the time, and had my newborn son in the vehicle, and was not paying attention and got pulled over for speeding, and found out I had a warrant for Licking County. So the statey was real nice, like he let me feed my son and do all that stuff. And of course in Licking County you're not allowed to have any type of medication that's considered a narcotic, so I was not allowed to take my Subutex while I was there. Well, I got out about a week or so later, and of course I still was going through the motions of being sick and trying to get better and all that, and I ran into a friend of mine that just happened to sell heroin, and that was my third relapse, and that was my worst relapse. Nights I can remember, I had let myself get so deep down. It was the dead of winter. I could barely push his stroller in the snow, and I had him out in that cold walking up the hill on Pine Street to get to the trailer park so that I could go get high so that I wouldn't be sick. Well, that spring somebody had called Children's Services on me, and they come in and told me that they had had a call that I was taking my son to trap houses and trading him for dope, which I did never do that. I did take him to trap houses. I drove with him high. I mean, I did things that I shouldn't have done, but I never traded my son for dope, and it kills me that people would go that far, but I mean, I guess I went too far anyways. But I've seen so many things in a 6-month period. I watched 7 people overdose, including her boyfriend at the time. I've dosed most of those people with Narcan numerous times. I've had to carry them outside, beat the shit out of them literally, to bring them back. And then once they came to, I was made to get them off the property, not somebody take them to the hospital, somebody call the squad, somebody make sure that it was alright. It was get them off the property, because if the cops show up, so I'm not going down for this. After that incident, I was getting high and went to turn and say something to somebody and had a gun in my forehead over $20 that I didn't even know, but they knew that I had a job, so they wanted me to pay it. So then that happened, and then I just remember praying so hard. Like, the only privacy you could get in that house was to go in the bathroom and lock the door, and then you were lucky if you got 5 minutes because somebody was trying to get in there. This day was the one thing, and I know that it was about 5 o'clock, between 5 and 6 in the evening, because I remember seeing the sun going down through the windows, and I remember she said, "Em, come on, I got a shot ready, let's do this real quick, and then we'll get this house cleaned up while nobody's here." And I said, "Okay." And at that point in time, her fiance at the time was in the hospital. He was actually really sick, and they didn't know if he was even going to make it. And so he had a sister that was kind of taking over things for him, and I know she didn't want any of us there, but he had said, you know, them two are allowed to be there, blah, 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 whatever, but nobody else. So, because that's, you know, all the drug dealers wanted to hang there, like, they could make their money there, do whatever, blah, blah, blah. Well, I remember hearing a knock on the front door. And I had just got done doing my shot, and I knew that she was in the bathroom still trying to do hers. And she said, "Em, will you get the door?" And I said yes. And I went, and I remember unlocking it and turning the handle, and that was all the further I made it. I was pushed back out of the way. Here come the guy that owned the apartment was his sister, and there was just cops behind him. I just remember seeing cop after cop after cop after cop coming in, and they're like, "Ma'am, have a seat on the couch." And then they asked for her by name, and I was like, "She's in the bathroom." And the whole rest of that night was just so crazy. Like, they put me out on the porch, and they just asked me a bunch of questions, and I didn't lie about anything. Like, I just remember crying, like, I need help. I seriously need help. Like, I want out of here. And I remember looking up and out loud, like, I didn't even care who was listening. I was like, "This is your sign, isn't it?" I was like, when I asked for a sign, like, you went above and beyond to give me that sign, did you not? Because I obviously didn't take the first 3. I'm sitting here today with 491 days clean. I have my family back. Me and my mom talk. I talked to my dad and my stepmom. I have got to see my daughter for the first time in 5 years. I'm still currently trying to see my son, but that's a different issue. It's not fun. It's not. All the money that I spent that I have nothing to show for, all the time that I spent high when I could have been with my kids or with my family or being a productive person in society, I can't get that time back. I can't go back and change those things. I deal with mental disorders. I have anxiety. I have depression. I have bipolar. I have PTSD. And of course, I'm an addict in recovery. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And you just have to have the strength to be able to want to be sober. Refuse not to live my life like that anymore. I wake up every day. I don't have to get a fix to get my day going. I can get up, get dressed, and do the things I want to do. I went from living in a tent, having nothing, to I have my own apartment, I have a vehicle, I have a very good job, I'm loved at my job, my staff is amazing, my bosses are even more amazing, I have great friends, I have family that I can call if I need to, and all it took was a little bit of willpower, and just being able to have the strength to say, I can do this, and I'm worth it. Just need to be grateful. Grateful every day. Don't be humble. Just be grateful. Every day is a blessing. And luckily I had the last 491 days to learn that. And if just one person feels the way I feel, there is help out there. There's 1-800 numbers. There's places you can go. Facebook has numerous ways to reach out. There's always somebody or somewhere. You can look me up on Facebook. I don't care if it's 4 o'clock in the morning. I've been there and I know what it's like to not have somebody. And I would never, ever in a million years turn down somebody who was reaching out for help. Because reaching out for help is the first step for the rest of your life. Being able to have the rest of your life. My name is Emily Riggle, and that is my story on how I beat addiction.